online, important dates that are coming up in the next couple of days, actually. Post-secondary options, college applications, financial aid, Dallas County Promise, and the Q&A at the end. We will be answering questions in the chat, so you can send those to us. If you are going to send questions in the chat, please send it to all panelists. Tina and I will be taking turns answering in the chat. So if you don't send it to all panelists, we might not be able to see it. Also, there might be times where you are able to, wow, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Oh, there might be times that you put a question in the chat, but we might not think it's for the good of the group. And so we'll reply that we'll follow up with an email or something like that. We do want to respect your time. And so if a conversation or a discussion is running a little long, we might just say, hey, this would be something that you might want to contact your individual dean about.
Can everybody hear Ms. Fisher okay? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear her?
They cannot.
I'm hearing a yes.
Okay, so I got a yes, but I also got a bunch of messages that you could not.
All right, we got phones.
But because we're in the same room, it gives really bad feedback. So I can talk louder if that needs to happen. Thank you guys. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So this is who we are. This is our team. Looking from left to right, we have Becky Beck. She is our person that works with special populations and at-risk populations. So she will be at all campuses, so all of your students will know her. The next person over is Aurora St. Laurent. She is our coordinator for our department. Next, we have Angela Curtin. She serves Turner campus. Tina's there next. She is from Newman Smith High School or serves Newman Smith High School. Valerie Villanueva is the dean for Creekview High School. And then myself again for ECHS and Ranchview.
And then if you can, please follow us on Instagram. That is our handle over there. And the reason we want you to follow us on Instagram is, number one, we're awesome. But no, in all reality, the reason we want you to is because whenever we have any updates, any information on deadlines, any information like that, we want to be able to get that information out to you and your children. So that is why we want to make sure that is the main way that we communicate, because we know all the kids have Insta. So we're on Insta, and then we have like fun reels and just any information we want to share out. We'll use that as our means of communication, along with the emails that we send.
Okay, and then we want to make sure everyone knows about our upcoming college night. It is actually this coming Monday, September 9th at Ranchview High School from 6 to 8 p.m. We have over 100 colleges participating. We will also have individual sessions on Dallas County Promise with a rep from Dallas County Promise, financial aid, scholarships, and sports recruiting. So we really hope to see you out there. We will be out there. The whole team will be out there. And Ranchview has been gracious hosts. And so if you have not been out to that campus, please come see what they're about as far as the campus setup, and also meet a lot of our college representatives.
Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. And so one of the first topics that we're going to talk about are post-secondary options. And so the reason we want y'all to look at different options is because we know that we want to make sure that our kids have more job opportunities and opportunity to earn a higher wage. And so this is anything that a student will do after high school. And so it is going to be anything right after they get their high school diploma. It's going to be various different topics that can be covered in this. And I'll go over some of that information in here. And so some of the different areas that we look at when we look at post-secondary education options include four-year colleges or universities, two-year community colleges, technical schools, certifications, military enlistment, and then career training programs. So when we look at four-year colleges or universities, they offer a wide variety of depth and educational options. So there's a lot of degrees and majors that a student can participate in than compared to a community college. And then the degrees that they can earn are normally a bachelor's of arts or a science or a fine arts are some of those options in there. And students can always transfer from a community college into a university or have direct admission into a university itself. When we're looking at two-year colleges, some of those advantages include saving money on tuition, raising their GPA. So if your child did not have as great of a GPA and grades in high school, they have an opportunity, sort of like a do-over, they're able to take the what they call as the basic classes at a 2-year college and then transfer to their institution of choice. And if they're especially not sure, like, look, I don't want to go to a school where there is 25 or 30,000 students at a university, a community college might be a better fit. Especially if they're like, I'm not ready to leave home right now. This will at least be an option where they can either earn an associate's degree or earn their credits that they need in order to transfer. One is not better than another. It's just a matter of whatever works best for your family. And we always want to make sure that our kids have that as a backup option, in case there was like a global pandemic or something like that happens. We want to make sure that students have at least a community college application in their back pocket for them. When we're looking at technical schools, a lot of kids consider this like a trade school. That's the old term for it. Technical schools or technical institutions. These are where students can earn. They can study in a certain career field. They can sometimes earn a degree in it or a certification. It could include culinary arts, cosmetology, automotive, even things like business administration. So there's a lot of options when it comes to what students can do in a technical school. And some examples of a technical school might be Lincoln Tech or UTI, whereas some of the examples for a community college would be something like Dallas College or Collin College. And so when I'm talking about Dallas College and Collin College, a lot of people think like, well, if I'm going to a college, that means I have to do math, English, science, history. And the thing is, community college has really changed and there are options on certification. So that is something that people can definitely take advantage of because it allows you to get a workforce ready skill. And you can even do it within 6 months, a year, or 2 years, depending on what your child wants to study. And so places like Dallas College, and we talk about Dallas College a lot because that is one of our highest serving institutions, meaning that is where a lot of our kids go after they graduate. There's a lot of programs that they could take advantage of. For example, like EMT, if they were looking at becoming like a paramedic, if they're looking at auto body, if they're looking at sonography or radiological sciences, accounting, welding, HVAC. There's a lot of money in all these different fields, real estate, and they can do a lot of these courses directly at Dallas College, which could be like, which was Brookhaven, North Lake, those campuses, they all merged together to be one big happy family. And so they're under Dallas College. There's Collin College, Tarrant Community College. So there's different ones in our area that students can definitely look at, either to get certified or get the credits that they need in order to transfer to a university or get an associate's degree. There is also the different military branches, and we work closely with our military partners. And so if a student is interested in the military, they can always reach out to their CCMR dean, and we work closely. So that way, if a student wants to talk with a recruiter, they always have that opportunity to do so. And it's a great way to pay for college, to have growth within the military. And a lot of times a misconception is that you have to be in it for like 15, 20 years, and you don't. They have different contracts that students can take advantage of. And a lot of times they could continue going into finishing up their or doing their education while they are in the military. And so they can join the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or even the Reserve. So there's a lot of options. And if your kids have questions on it, we do give something called the ASVAB at each campus. And so they can reach out to their CCMR dean to find out when that is going to be offered at their individual campus. So something else that students can also take advantage of are career training programs. And these are professional training programs or like a trade certification. And what it does is allow students like sort of like on the job training where they're able to get training and earn some money while learning a trade or a skill. So that is all the information on post-secondary options. I'm going to stop for a quick second to see if there are any questions. Ms. Fisher, were there any questions for the greater good that came up or no?
Ms. Jane, you are amazing, and there are no questions.
Oh my goodness, I answered everything. All right, I gave enough information on everything. We're gonna give you all a second to see if there are any questions that are coming up. And then of course, like, well, after we talk about college access, I'll go into detail about what that college application process looks like, what the documents are, all that stuff. So that's gonna be coming up very shortly. So maybe you'll get some more questions from that point. Okay, so the next thing, oh, the chat is disabled for everybody. It is disabled for, it is disabled if you are trying to communicate with each other. But if you email us or message us, we can see that information directly. Sorry, chat. So the chat is accessible where it'll just come directly to us instead. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is college access testing. And so what that pretty much means is when we are looking at information, the colleges are definitely looking at GPA and ranking, but then the biggest thing that they're also looking at is different placement testing. And we have something called SAT and ACT and the TSI-A2. So when we're looking at the why behind it, so when we have SAT and ACT, that gives students an opportunity to not only gain admission into colleges and universities, but it also gives them an opportunity to earn scholarships based on their scores. And so CFB is a district that offers the school day SAT. Your child did have an opportunity, if they were here last school year, to take it in March, and they're going to have another opportunity to take it again in October. And so when it comes to the school day SAT, the district is the one that registers your child, so they don't have to do anything special for it. However, if they aren't interested in, like, you know what, I'm not really that happy with my score, they can always sign up to take a Saturday test on their own. And then when it comes to ACT, they just have additional areas they test. SAT tests on math, English, and like the math and English sections. And when it comes to ACT, they also have a embedded science section that they test students in. We only offer Saturday ACT testing. And so if students are interested, they can either sign up on their own, or if they are eligible for a fee waiver, we can always give them a fee waiver. We can check and see if they meet the eligibility requirement. We could give them the fee waiver so they can sign up for that test. The other thing that we offer is something called the TSI-A2. And what that does is if your child does not meet college readiness scores when it comes to the SAT or ACT, then the TSI-A2 is another option of what test students can take in order to show college readiness in the state of Texas. And so they can show college readiness through their SAT, ACT, or the TSI-A2. But when it comes to just showing college readiness, TSI-A2 is the only thing that's going to work. But if they're like, hey, I want to be able to get some scholarships, you know, I want to show my SAT score or my ACT score, then they can use that opportunity for their admissions. And so that is the why behind the actual testing. And so we're like, okay, well, we've talked about the testing. And then the other part of it that I didn't mention is when it comes to the TSI-A2, we do offer that to our students as well. So students will have different dates set aside where they will be taking the TSI-A2 test if they did not meet college readiness. And this is the college readiness benchmark. And so when we're looking at this, there are different scores based on the different tests that students take that they have to show college readiness. And so what college readiness means is that they are showing that if they were to go and take a college level course at a college, they have a better likelihood, a 70% likelihood of actually passing that actual college course. And so when it comes to SAT, they need on the evidence-based reading and writing section at least a 480 or higher. And when it comes to the math section on the SAT, they need a score of a 530 or higher. When it comes to the ACT test, they have a different scale that they go by. And so when we're looking at the English section, they need a score of a 40 or higher. And it is even broken down by depending on the type of coursework that they're trying to take, on that English score being at least a 18 or higher and the reading score being at least a 22 or higher. And the math score needs to be at least a 22 or higher in that. And again, this meets college readiness benchmark. And something to keep in mind is there might be some colleges or universities where they will require a higher score in order to meet admission requirements. And so this is just the baseline score that we want to have, like in the minimum for our students, but of course we want our students to have higher scores than this. In the event that your child did not do well, let's say they were really, really strong in math, but not so strong in English, that is where the TSI-A2 comes into play. So if they did really well in math, they will not be taking the TSI in that because they showed college readiness. However, when it comes to the TSI, then they would be taking the TSI-A2 in order to show college readiness for their English section. It is also on a different scale. The TSI-A2 is an untimed test. And so it gives students an opportunity to at least take a different form of a test in order to show the college readiness that the colleges want. And this is for community colleges and universities. So I'm going to stop there for a quick second and see if there are any questions on all the, what I like to call is alphabet soup. So I'm being told that an ACT waiver had expired that Ms. Villanueva gave. We actually just received some new ACT waivers. Please reach out to your CCMR dean if you need to get a new waiver. I believe those expired on August 31st. So if it was a test that was after that, we have new waivers, so we could give it to you. Just reach out to Ms. Villanueva. She has them and she can definitely provide it. Or if it's a Smith kiddo, whichever campus, reach out to your dean. We will get you those waivers that you and your child need. Any other questions that are coming up?
None at all.
None at all? No other questions yet? Okay. So I'm going to, let me make sure if there are any other questions that I had received. I have a question. Are there TSI A2 qualifying scores from STAR? Okay. Okay.
I already answered it in the chat.
All right, perfect. So that's already been answered in the chat.
I answered all.
Okay, perfect.
There's none for the good of the.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next part, which is going to be college applications. So there's a lot when it comes to college applications. And so the best way for us to describe it is as if your child has a part-time job when it comes to completing these college applications. And so that is why you have the wonderful CCMR deans and the CCMR department to help you and your child with completing these, because it can be a little brutal and there have been some changes. And so we're going to talk about some of the changes when it comes and what some of the colleges and universities are now asking. So these are going to be the topics, and we're going to go through each of these topics. It's going to be so exciting. So some of the application portals that we have is Apply Texas and Common App. And so what ends up happening is students they open up an account with their personal email, and then they create their profile, and then they're able to apply to different colleges and universities with either Apply Texas within the state of Texas or through Common App if they're looking at schools in state and out of state. Now, Apply Texas is going through another revamp. They went through one, I believe, 3 years ago. And so this is like the third new Apply Texas that we are now going through. And they're asking a lot of questions that you may not want to answer in there, and some of them may not be relevant. And especially if your child is looking at specific universities, you might really want to consider doing the Common App instead. But these are the two different portals that your child will be using. The other option is, of course, applying directly through the university. But that's going to be, if you were to go to a university website, they'll let you know like whichever one the preference is for, and if they have the application directly on their website. But Apply Texas or Common App are the two that we use. And all these applications require the same information. So they're going to ask for your child's legal name. So if they have 2 last names, we need both of their last names. If they have 3 last names, we need 3. If they have 1, you'll just list the 1, but we need their full legal name. It is highly critical if your child does have their social security number that we enter it into their application, because everything is going to be linked with that social security number. When you do the financial aid application, which Ms. Fisher is going to talk about, they are going to link it with a social. When we send in information, everything is linked with a social security number. And if you don't provide it in the application, the college will ask you for it, so you will have to provide it eventually. So you will need your social security number for your child, the home address, so basic demographic information, email address. We want to make sure it is not their CFB email. It needs to be their personal. Now, we know that the kids these days have like 10, 15,000 unread emails. If at all possible, please create a new email that is specifically for college and financial aid purposes that they could then use for job searches. The colleges, depending on how many colleges they apply to, they will be sending a lot of information. And so we don't want anything lost in the mail, in the email. We don't want anything where they miss a deadline. And so it is important that they have a clean email address that they're checking frequently, so that way they are understanding and responding back and giving the information that the colleges or universities are asking for. We need their phone numbers in it, their residency status, meaning, you know, how long they've lived in the state of Texas. They're going to ask questions about that. And then the names of any and all high schools they have attended. So that is some of the information that is asked for on the in the basic demographics. Some of the other information that many of the colleges ask for is if your child has any extracurricular activities or summer activities. And so you definitely want to explain anything that your child does outside of the class time and how much time they devote to it. So the way that I like to describe it is your child is in school from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Besides that, what are they doing with their life? So we know that they're not going home and sitting and staring into space. We know that they're doing something, and they need to include that information. They want to include any part-time jobs that they're taking part in, if they have any obligations like taking care of any relatives or siblings, any summer jobs that they've taken up, any internships, anything that they have done that shows their life outside of school. That is the information we definitely want them to include when they are putting it in their application. Plus, when they add this information in, the colleges then see the type of student that they are, and then they would hopefully be eligible for some scholarship opportunities within that. Some colleges will be requiring an essay, and some it is going to be optional. And so when your child starts their college application, whether on Common App or Apply Texas, it'll let you know if it is something that is optional or required. And so each college will have the essay topics that they would want you to do. And then those the topics are already available. And so we want to make sure a lot of them are being general with like, what is your plan for the future? You know, tell me about a time during your high school career that really impacted you. So there are various topics that your child can write about. And we just want to make sure that it is proofread. And they are, through their English 4 classes, a lot of the teachers are helping the kids with getting those applications, with the college essays done. So it is something they're already working on, but we want to make sure that if there is something that needs to be tweaked or changed up for their applications, that those things are taken care of. And then when it comes to application fees and fee waivers, almost all universities will require a fee to review an application. And so if your child qualifies for free or reduced lunch, then they would be eligible for fee waivers through College Board. And so what that means is they will not have to pay that fee for their application to be reviewed. Whether they're accepted or not is after the fact, but for the colleges to look over the information, we want to make sure if your child does qualify that you guys do submit a new application for the new school year. And those are available now, so we highly recommend getting those done, whether they eat the lunch at school or not. That's secondary. We want to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity for not only those fee waivers where they can use it for their college applications, they can use it for taking an SAT on Saturday that we had mentioned before, plus also sending their test scores out to their colleges and universities, because that has to be official documentation that has to be sent. And so this is what the free and reduced lunch application looks like. They have changed over to School Cafe. And so that is where you would need to go in order to do the application for your child. So it is something where you do have to apply every year. Hopefully this is the last year for your child as a senior. And so we just want to make sure that this is taken care of so that way we can help you save some money, because we know that those expenses are going to add up their senior year. So we're hoping this will at least help with reducing that cost for you. So there are, as I mentioned earlier, there are some supplemental documents that need to be submitted. And those things include your child's high school transcript. It can include their SAT and ACT scores. Now, there are some colleges that are test optional, meaning you don't have to submit it for admission. However, in order to take college level courses, your child will have to submit proof of college readiness, meaning their ACT, their SAT, or their ACT or their SAT scores. So it is highly critical, and it has to be official scores sent directly from College Board or from ACT. So we want to make sure, and TSI, that those are sent directly. Any AP scores, if applicable, we want to get those sent in directly, and so those have to go through College Board as well. Any dual credit, so if they have done any dual credit, we want to make sure that information is submitted as well. And then any UT on-ramp transcripts. So all that information has to be submitted. It has to all be official documentation that has to be sent directly from whoever the institution is over to your college or university for your child. So when we're talking about submitting these supplemental documents, when we're looking at that high school transcript, there's a couple different ways that can happen. Number one is going to be the campus, your child's high school campus's counseling website. And so there is typically a Google form that needs to be completed, and then the records office will take care of submitting those transcripts. And we want those sent now. We don't want to wait until the end of the term, because if your child is waiting on a decision, we want to make sure that those transcripts are sent now. You can do it directly through the application portal. So like Common App, your child's counselor will add it in for them directly. And then there are some colleges where they will not be with the Google form that we have, and they may not be on Common App. That is where your child will need to create a Parchment account and send it to their university directly. And so there are a couple different ways that have to be sent. When it comes to the campus website and when it comes through Common App, there is no charge for those. For Parchment, there is a fee for your child to send their transcripts, the official transcripts, that way. And then it is really, really important to remember that it is the responsibility of your child to request a transcript. And if they were to look on that Google form, they have to log in with their school email in order to do so. And an application will not be processed without those transcripts. So the colleges will require it. There's going to be one that they require in the beginning of the year. There might be some that are required mid-year after first semester grades are in and they see how, you know, your child is doing at that point. And then at the very end of the school year, a final transcript has to be sent to the college or university they will be attending with that final graduation date on there. So when it comes to deadlines, there are deadlines for scholarship applications. And typically what ends up happening is if your child is looking at institutional scholarships, meaning scholarships directly from their college or university, that deadline is going to be earlier than a regular decision deadline for your college or university. So what that means is, for example, UT Austin, I believe they mentioned today that their regular decision deadline is December 1st, correct, Ms. Fisher? I believe they said their regular decision deadline is December 1st. However, if your child is interested in going to UT Austin, then they need to, and they're interested in scholarships, they would probably want to get it in by October 15th. So some of them are going to have spring deadlines. For example, UTA has a summer deadline. However, if your child is interested in some of the scholarship opportunities, we definitely want to get things in before December 1st. So the earlier your child applies, then they will be eligible for some of those scholarship opportunities directly with their institution. Each college or university will have specific deadlines for their college or university. And so it is important to see, like, okay, which deadline is it that my child's university is looking at? And we go according to that. So each one is going to be different. And then there's different deadlines depending on the way that your child is applying. And so make sure that you guys are looking on their website, or even when you're looking in Common App, it'll let you know this is what the deadline is for the application. And if your child misses a deadline, they would be missing an opportunity sometimes to not only attend that university, but they could also be losing out on scholarship opportunities. So when it comes to deadlines, I mean, sometimes there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to what the high schools will accept with, with like, oh, I forgot to turn in my assignment, I can still turn it in next week. If your child misses a deadline, they have missed a deadline. So it is highly critical that they get their applications in on time. And then when it comes to communicating with the colleges will be sending a lot of information. And what they do is they typically will, once your child has applied, they will send information on setting up an online account or an online portal. And each college is going to have their own individual portals, and your child will have an ID number for each individual college. And so it is really, really important that they are checking their emails and they're setting up the portals that each of the colleges require. UT Arlington has a math portal. TWU has a Pioneer portal. UT has the One Stop. So everybody has it by a different name, but it all serves the same purpose. If there's additional documents, everything is typically uploaded into that portal. So it is really important that the colleges send information and that any requested documents is submitted in the way the college is asking. And so it could be the fee waivers from the college applications. It could be residency questions. It could be financial aid documentation. It might be an essay. So there's different things that the colleges will require is submitted directly through their online accounts. And then when it comes to FERPA and that comes to the law, just something to remember is, according to the U.S. Department of Education, when a child does turn 18 years old or enters a post-secondary institution at any age, the rights under FERPA transfer from the parent to the student. So what that means is the college cannot release information to you. Your child will need to be the one that is communicating directly with the college or university. So yes, you might be paying the bill, but they're still going to be talking to your child. So just something to keep in mind. Colleges work differently than high schools and the regular school districts. Some helpful tips to keep in mind: please have your child keep track of their different usernames and passwords for their various portals. I highly recommend creating a Google Sheet in their personal email where they list like the name of the portal, if it's Common App, if it's Apply Texas, and then if it's UNT, UTA, and then they list their ID number with it if they have one, the email address they used, a hint on the password, so that way they will know what it is. Because some universities and some institutions are going to say they need 12 characters. Others are going to say they need 14 characters in their password. So it is highly critical that they start saving the information on what they're using to create these accounts. And they use their personal email and the same one for all that communication. So when we went back to it is important that they use their own personal email rather than their school email, and it doesn't have 10,000 unread emails. This is a reason why. There's a lot of information that is going to be coming through, and we don't want them having that information lost. And we want to make sure it's something that's professional, preferably their first name, last name, either the year they were born, the year they're graduating from high school, something that is professional that they could then use when they're even starting their job search. Woo, that was a lot of talking. So I'm going to stop for a second and see if there are any questions, Ms. Fisher, for the greater good that need to be answered.
Well, there weren't a lot of questions, but there are some things that I wanted to address. So there was a question about Instagram, and if you are not an Instagram user, we do send out a bi-weekly to monthly newsletter to all the senior parents about what is happening. But sometimes we hear about something that's happening that is time sensitive. So I will give you for instance, currently Tarleton State is offering an application fee waiver up through September 9th. We are probably not going to send another senior parent email communication by then, but that would be something that would be on our Instagram. So you do not have to necessarily follow us on Instagram, but for any of those things that are very short turnaround, that's usually where we post them. Another question was about getting fee waivers for testing. And I just want to remind people that in order to be eligible for a fee waiver, you do need to be a recipient of free or reduced lunch, and you do need to go to that new cafe. What is it called?
School cafe.
School cafe to sign up for that. It's a little bit different this year. And so if you have any difficulties with that, you can definitely reach out to student nutrition or have your student talk to their CCMR dean. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, a parent asked about UT on-ramps transcripts and whether you need to send them all to all the schools that you are applying to is what I'm addressing. So it does cost about $15 to $20 per transcript to send your UT on-ramps transcript if the student has credit from there. My suggestion would be, if that is a financial strain, to send it to the top 3 schools that the student is applying to, or to send it once the student is accepted, because that is where it's most important that they get credit, so they're not required to retake that class, and that credit can be transferred then to their 4-year university.
The name of our Instagram handle, we will have it at the end as well, is CFBISD CCMR. So that was one of the questions that came up. What is our Instagram handle? And then yes, this is being recorded. So if this is something, we will also send out this presentation. So this whole presentation, we will send it out to y'all. So that way you have this information. Yes, there are lots of dates, lots of deadlines. And it's funny because it's like our students think that, we know all these dates and deadlines, but we also know their usernames and passwords, and we don't. But we help them with trying to, resurrect that information. But yes, this information will be available. We will be sending out this information to everybody as well.
Someone put in the chat about Starbucks, but I'm not sure what Starbucks are.
That's at Smith.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought maybe you mistyped Starbucks and you felt like we needed coffee, and I was going to appreciate you. I'm just kidding. Ms. Jane will get back to you about Starbucks.
So Starbucks is only something that is specific for Newman Smith. It's the school cafe. If you go under student nutrition, under the CFB's website, the main website, they will have information in there directly about signing up, because they changed their complete platform on what they're using for doing the free reduced lunch application. And then we had a question that came up. How long does it usually take to get transcripts put in? So pretty much, I think what the question is, how long does it take for the campus to send it? The campus is pretty good about making sure that the transcripts are sent out. If there is a question about if the transcript was sent, your child can always reach out to the records department. And there is typically, if it is done something through T-Rex, which is that Google form that we use, then there is a tracking number that your child can ask for, and that can be given over to the college or university. The college or university typically has about 14 days in order to access it. If your child is using Common App, you can look directly in Common App and see when that information was uploaded by your counselor, by your child's counselor. So that information will be in there in Common App directly.
Another question that came through was about what I was talking about for the free application. That is specifically for Tarleton State College, and they are doing that. So that would be something that we might post on Instagram. That was just an example, but Tarleton is currently having an application fee waiver that runs through September 9th. So if you have a student that is interested in applying to Tarleton, have them do it between now and September 9th, because there is a fee waiver available to them.
One other question that came in was College Board had us register with our school email. What do we do to change it?
Oh, I already said that to them.
Okay, perfect. So that information was shared, and if not, reach out to your dean. We can help you with that information.
Yeah. There was also a question about the average cost a parent spends on college application fees. And my answer to that is it depends on how ambitious your student is. We encourage students to apply to a minimum of 4 colleges because we believe that choice is important when you're making a college decision, not only financial choices, but best fit, best match, all of that stuff. And most college applications can run between 65 or $45 and $90, but a lot of them will have different application fee waivers. So another, for instance, each one of our campuses is hosting an application drive with the University of Texas at Arlington. And if your student attends that application drive, they will get an application fee waiver for being there. So we try to pass on as much application fee waiver information as possible, but I would say the average cost is going to be about $300, give or take.
So one of the other questions on Applied Texas, it asks for colleges if they have taken any courses. So that is for Dallas College, correct, Ms. Fisher? So when we're looking at Applied Texas, and it's like, have your child taken any college courses?
Dual credit or on-ramps.
Any dual credit or on-ramps? Yes, you will list UT Austin if they have taken those, and the time frame they took those, and the ones for Dallas College as well.
And then specifically for UT on-ramps, you only have to list that if the student accepted the credit from UT. If your student took a UT on-ramps course but did not accept the college credit, you do not have to add that as because they won't have a college transcript. There was a question about, can students start making appointments with their CCMR dean? Absolutely, but we will go into your student's classroom to do each one of these steps. So as far as I'll be talking about the Dallas County Promise, but to do the Dallas County Promise Path, we'll do meet with all of the students at all the campuses to do that. We will also have an application drive through one of their classes where we assist them in filling out at least one college application to somewhere. But yes, your student can make an appointment to see their CCMR dean anytime. If they look at the email that was sent from their CCMR dean that you also got, it will include information on how to set up that appointment. Okay. There's another question. My son is graduating early. Will he be able to take the SAT in October? Yes. Okay. Mr. Gonzalez, please reach out to your student CCMR dean. If he is a junior that is graduating early, he most likely will not take the SAT in October because we want him to be eligible for the PSAT, and they are on the same date. So that's going to be a very specific question. Please reach out to your SAT dean SAT dean, CCMR dean as soon as possible for that.
And your child can always sign up for a Saturday SAT test as well. So that's another option, but please have them reach out. Any other questions?
Okay, well, I am going to take over. Miss Jane did an awesome job. and we're going to be talking about financial aid.
Whoops, my bad. There we go.
Okay, so, oh, go back.
Did I go to one too many?
Yes.
Oh, I did. Haha.
Okay. So there are three different types of financial aid. When we talk about financial aid, it is any money that is awarded to you from the institution. Those three different types of financial aid are scholarships, grants, and loans. Scholarships and grants are going to be free money. Loans are going to be anything you have to pay back. But those are all going to make up a financial aid offer from any institution. You do not have to accept any of the financial aid, but specifically the loans. So how do you get access to this financial aid? Apply for federal or state aid, and we're going to talk about those different applications. There are institutional scholarships that Ms. Jane talked about. Those are going to be listed on the actual college or university's website. Those scholarships can be need-based or merit-based. A need-based aid would be based off of how much money you make compared to the cost of attendance to attend that school. And merit-based is anything that your student does that earns them a scholarship. So it could be a band, academic, athletic, any of those are considered merit-based scholarships. And then in addition to that, your students are always encouraged to apply to outside scholarships. Those outside scholarships could be local. We have I was going to say the Elks Club, but that is not what I
Rotary.
Thank you. Rotary, Texas Women's League, Civic League, all of those are local organizations that offer scholarships to our students. We also have the CFB Education Foundation, and those are scholarships that are specific to CFB students. But then we talk about bigger scholarships like the Gates scholarships, Coca-Cola, Taco Bell, all of those are outside scholarships. Ms. Jane is putting in the chat the link to our scholarship. I don't want to say portal, but our sheet that lists all the scholarships. Also, we hope that you've gotten information about our new platform, School Links. In School Links, there is also a scholarship section as well, and we are working on moving the information from that sheet that Ms. Jane just gave you the bit.ly to our School Links platform. The important thing to note about this is for students to be eligible for almost all financial aid, they do need to submit a financial aid application.
Next one.
Yep. Okay. I think you went backwards.
Did I go backwards? No?
Okay. So just as an FYI, the state of Texas has instituted a graduation requirement. This started with a class of 2022 that stated that all students, as part of the graduation process, must complete or acknowledge a financial aid application. We just want to make you aware of this because sometimes parents are a little leery of putting their information out there or putting their information on a government form, and we understand that. If you have questions about this, please feel free to reach out to your dean. In no way are we attempting to be invasive or anything like that, but the reason why it became a state requirement was because a lot of students were leaving money on the table. The number of students who are Pell Grant eligible increases every year. And so a lot of times parents might say, well, you're not going to be eligible for anything, but they would have been eligible if they had submitted a financial aid application. And that was kind of the basis of requiring it to be a graduation requirement. So then when we talk about the different types of financial aid applications, there are two different applications in the state of Texas. Your student will only complete one of them. The application your student completes is based off of their status within the United States. So if your student is a US citizen, a documented resident, or specific visa holders that are for refugee status or political asylum, they are FAFSA eligible. If your student is an undocumented student, a DACA student, or holds another type of visa status, they are TASFA financial aid applications, and that is for state aid. So that is really the big difference. FAFSA allows students to be eligible for federal financial aid and state financial aid. TASFA requires or allows students to be eligible only for state aid because they are not eligible for federal financial aid. So which application is right for you? Again, this is based on your student's documentation within the US. So if your child is a US citizen or a legal resident or a documented resident, They will complete FAFSA, which stands for the Free Application for Federal, which is why that is underlined, student aid. In order to complete this application, both you as the parent and the student must use separate email and phone numbers to create their own unique login, and the application is completed online. If your student does not meet the requirements for FAFSA, they are going to fill out TASFA, the Texas Application for State Financial Aid. It is also a free application, so no one should be paying to apply for financial aid. They will not set up an FSA ID or a login, but a student and a parent still must use separate email addresses to complete the form, and the application is also completed online. Again, what's most important to notice about these is that they are free. It is the primary way that institutions will decide how to award financial aid to your student. Parents have to have access to this personal email to complete their required portion. If you had a student that graduated before last year and you completed a financial aid application, you might remember the days where both you and your student can log on together and sit down and knock the whole thing out. That is not a thing anymore. It is two separate portions. The student only has access to their information, and you only have access to your information to input it. You can see what your student put down, but you cannot edit it. Likewise, they cannot edit your information. So you must have access to this email in order to submit the financial aid application. There is some aid that is dispersed on a first come, first served basis. So we always encourage you to submit it as soon as possible once it opens. The order of submission matters. So when you submit a financial aid application, it must have a college application to attach to in order for it to be processed. So financial aid opens on December 1st. If you put in your application on December 1st, but you have not been applied or been accepted to any colleges, your financial aid is just sitting kind of like in a shopping cart waiting to be picked up. You check out once you have that college application submitted and you've been admitted to that college. So just be aware of kind of the order of that process. Ms. Jane also talked about being aware of the state, federal, and institutional deadlines. Your institutional deadline will always be before your state priority deadline. The institutional deadline is usually the deadline you should use is based on scholarship information, and a lot of those are going to be in December. So you want to make sure that you are making yourself eligible for the most financial aid possible for you and your student. So in order to complete a financial aid application, it doesn't matter which one, you're going to need your basic demographic information, social security number if you have one, ITIN number if you have one, your date of birth, your email address, that kind of information, where you live. You will need to have your 2023 tax return and W-2. You do need both of those, okay? So please, if you haven't or you haven't filed, please file. And if you filed, but you don't know where your tax return is, please start looking for it now. Financial aid is not open until December 1st, but we want to make sure that you have everything in a row so that you can ask us any questions if you have it. The financial aid application will ask you about how much is in your checking or savings account. In addition, you must report any business income. Again, this is different from previous years. If you had a small business that was under 100 employees, you did not have to report your business income. Now, a sole proprietor, if you're an LLC, all of that, if you are an employee of one yourself, you still need to report your business income. That also includes any rental portion of a home that you own. You do not have to report your own home that you live in, but if you rent it out, you do have to report that portion of your income. If you have any farm property, you have to report the value of that as well. It also is now new where you have to report any untaxed income, including child support, things like that, lottery winnings, stuff like that. So how do you submit this application? If you are completing the FAFSA, it is a new application process that we alluded to. That is why it's not opening until December 1st. They're still working to get the kinks out. You can submit it up to 20 colleges at one time per submission. And you must have parent email access to get that submitted. If you're doing the TASFA, the application process is new as well. It is also online. You can send it up to 10 colleges at one time, but again, you must have a parent email access in order to submit that. The state priority deadline is January 15th. So to be able to get the most out of financial aid, you want to submit your application by that date. regardless if you're doing FAFSA or TASFA. But if you are doing TASFA, that is your deadline because you are only eligible for state aid, and state aid is given first come, first serve. If you do have any questions specifically about FAFSA or TASFA, we have included the links here. We will be sending this presentation out to you as well as a recording. The recording is going to end up being about an hour and a half. So you might just want to look at the presentation, and then if you have questions, email your CCMR dean. But these links will be live once we send out the presentation to you.
So Ms. Fisher, one of the questions that came up was, is FAFSA only for applying to a university, or can you use it to apply to like a community college or anywhere else?
So FAFSA can actually be used at any nonprofit organization that is for extended learning or considered higher education, which includes certificate programs. So there are cosmetology schools that accepts FAFSA, trade schools, all of that stuff. Each school that you apply to, if they are FAFSA eligible, they will have a federal school code, and that is how you send your FAFSA to them, and you should be able to find that on their website. Any other questions, Ms. Jane?
No, we're gonna wait. If there's any other questions that are coming up, I'll give you all a second to put those in. There's always a lot of questions when it comes to money.
I'm going to say last call. Oh, so you're going to get a copy of this recording in the email. So everyone that has logged in, we have your email address. And so we will use that to generate the email that goes out with the PDF and a link to the recording.
So that should come out hopefully sometime next week. We should be able to get that out to y'all later next week after college night. Yeah. So for FAFSA, are we still on time?
I don't know how to answer the question for on time, but the opening date is December 1st, which is not traditionally on time, but it's on time this year.
And then what year are they applying for, Ms. Fisher?
Oh, excellent question. You are applying for the 25 FAFSA school year. The reason why it's the 25 FAFSA school year is because your student will be in college in 2025. If you do an application now, there is one there. It is for 2024. And we will then ask you, hey, you must do the 25-26 FAFSA application because that is the one your student needs to enter college in the fall of 2025.
What day is a UTA event to receive the application waiver? It will be during school. So it depends on which high school your child goes to. So reach out to your CCMR dean. If you are from Newman Smith, I sent that information out in the email that I sent out. But each high school has one on a different date because we hijacked UTA's time and said that we need them at all of our high schools. So reach out to your dean and we could get you that information.
If your student does attend Creekview, they have already had theirs, but no worries. UTA almost always has, this one's a little bit later, but they always have a Halloween application fee waiver. So if you submit it on October 31st, there's an application fee waiver then, and I'm sure that there will be additional that are coming up. All right.
Okay, let's go on to the next part, Ms. Fisher.
So Dallas County Promise. I absolutely love presenting about Dallas County Promise because I believe in the premise behind when it was or what it was founded behind. So Dallas County Promise is a last dollar grant that covers the cost of tuition at partner colleges. In addition to that, they offer a success coach for all 2025 Promise eligible students. And the purpose of that success coach is to make sure that one, they are following up with their students, that they're turning in all of their information, financial aid, registering for classes, things like that, but also encouraging them to stay on track and coaching them to be able to graduate as quickly as possible with as little financial debt as possible. In order to qualify for Dallas County Promise, you must be a Texas resident, but Texas residency is different than a U.S. citizen or a documented U.S. resident. So if you have lived in Texas 3 years, you are considered a Texas resident. And so any student that qualifies as a 3-year Texas resident and is a graduate from a CFB school will qualify for Dallas County Promise. There are some important things that I said when I was talking about Dallas County Promise. One of them is tuition. Dallas County Promise only covers the cost of tuition. So if you look at this sample university, the cost of tuition here is $7,800. Although the total cost of admission or attendance is $20,000 if you lived at home, the actual amount that gets paid to the college to attend classes is only tuition and fees. So that is all that goes to the university. Dallas County Promise only covers tuition, not fees. Little orange box. Dallas County Promise covers tuition. Now, the next part that we need to talk about is last dollar scholarship. What does that mean? Well, because it's a last dollar scholarship, all free money is applied prior to Dallas County Promise kicking in. So it's considered kind of like gap insurance. So let's say institution A had tuition cost of $10,000 and your student earned state and federal grant money totaling $5,000, which would be that green portion. And then they earned another scholarship because they were about that hustle for $1,000. So they have a total of $6,000 in free money, but that's all the free money they have. Dallas County Promise would cover the gap or what was left to cover the cost of tuition, which would be $4,000. So this student would earn a $4,000 Dallas County Promise grant. But remember that $10,000 only covers tuition. So the student would still be responsible for coming up with any fees, as well as if they're living on campus, their on-campus housing, books, transportation, eating, all of that stuff is not covered in this example. I feel like I should have said something else about Dallas County. Your free money is always going to be applied first to tuition, okay? So you cannot go to a school without paying to be there. So the first part of a bill is always going to be the tuition and fees. Next will be housing and then any incidentals, but those are out of your own pocket. So just understand that Dallas County Promise will never ever help fill a gap to pay for housing or food. Another thing that I like about Dallas County Promise is that it's a very easy process. The very first part is that your student will fill out the Promise Path Form. What the Path Form does is let your student CCMR dean know what are they interested in after high school. Some of the deans have course loads or student loads over 400 students. And so it would take them a long time to see all 400 students and find out about their next step in their process after they graduate. However, with this Path Form, we can take that information and disaggregate it and say, oh, these students are interested in this college. Anytime something comes out about this college, we can send these students an email and it will all be there in one form. But that path form also allows you to say, hey, I might be interested in using the path by the time I graduate. The next step is for students to complete an application to a Promise Partner school. Those application deadlines are different for each school, but to be eligible, they must submit their application by that specific deadline. Then the third step is to complete a financial aid application for the 25-26 school year, and that isn't open until December 1st. One of the things I like about the Dallas County Promise is other than the path form, which helps us help your student, there is not another step that they're required to do that is different than the regular application process. Up until this point, your student is not committed to attend any of these schools, nor accept the Dallas County Promise Dallas County Promise grant. They are committed or they get the grant once they actually register at a Promise institution by August 5th. If your student chooses not to attend one of these schools, nothing happens. We have gotten the information, they've still gotten access to the coach, but they're not committed to anything until the August 5th deadline. And that's only if they register at that school. What colleges are currently offered as direct institutions for high school graduates? Currently, we have UNT. UNT is a little bit different. All other campuses have unlimited Promise dollars for the most part. UNT offers 40 Dallas County Promise scholarships. So theirs is a little bit different. Then there's UTA, Midwestern State, Tarleton State, A&M Commerce, Texas Women's University, University of North Texas at Dallas, and Dallas College. Now, if you notice, the application deadline is here, and these colleges are listed by the due date that their application must be turned in order to be eligible for Dallas County Promise. There is also a family income limit. That family income limit is based off of your 2023 adjusted gross income. So if you as a family make more than the amount of money that's listed here, you would not be eligible for the Dallas County Promise grant, but your student would still be eligible for the Dallas County Promise Success Coaching. Promise facts. The student support is eligible to students doing their senior year, and after that, they get that support staff all the way through the end of their senior year. And then if they receive any information or attend a Promise school, their support staff will follow them through the entire time they are enrolled in that college. And again, there's no obligation to participate in the Dallas County Promise. The funds are released once your student actually enrolls in the college by the deadline. I know I covered a lot about Dallas County Promise. If you have specific questions, their website is amazing. It's just dallascountypromise.org. Like I said before, your CCMR dean will be going into each classroom to help your students complete the path form, so they don't need to feel obligated to do it on their own, but you are more than welcome to do that. Yeah, so I feel like there's probably lots of questions in the chat.
No, not too many.
Okay, good.
So why did Dallas County Promise add the family income limit when it wasn't originally there?
So one of the reasons was because of the longevity of the program. They did not want this to be something that they could not fund for a long time and into the future, more than 20 years. And so they had to be fiscally responsible, especially with the cost of education going up, to make sure they covered that. But in all honesty, the majority of the people who were using the Dallas County Promise, well, let me back up. The only school that was ever free of a family income was UNT Dallas. UNT Dallas did that to increase their enrollment, but now that their enrollment is increased, they want to make sure that they can maintain the longevity of offering the promise, and so they did have to put an income cap on that. Dallas College was the other campus that did not have an income requirement, and after looking at the number of students who were using Dallas County Promise to go to Dallas College, all of them were considered non-Pell Grant eligible, which means that financially the federal government said that they would not qualify for any financial aid. And so Dallas County, the Dallas College School District felt like to more align with the idea of Dallas County Promise, and for longevity, they needed to kind of make it so that students were also getting money from the federal government or be a Pell Grant or state grant eligible. With that said, even though Dallas College now has an income limit, Dallas College has a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed. And so if your student is interested in attending Dallas College, but would not be Dallas County Promise eligible, I would highly encourage you to look at their website, because their scholarships are actually a little bit better than the Promise because they include more things.
Does Dallas County Promise apply to certification programs?
Yes, Dallas County Promise applies to any program that is a continuing education, or not a continuing education class, but you can earn a certificate or a degree. Dallas County Promise covers all of those.
Okay, and then the other question was, is the family limit for a scholarship based upon current 2024 income or 2023 taxes and W-2s?
It is based on your adjusted gross income from your 2023 taxes, specifically line 11. We know that because we do a lot of financial.
We do a lot of FAFSA.
And it's always line 11.
It's always line 11.
Your line 11 adjusted gross income on your 2023 taxes. If your 2024 income is lower than your 2023 income, you can always write an appeal letter to the financial aid office and provide that additional information once your student has been given a financial aid award.
Those were all the questions. You want to talk a little bit about parent promise, Ms. Fisher?
I do.
Oh, sorry, real quickly. One more question just came up. So if your child takes a year off and then returns for the 2026 school year, would parents still be part of the FAFSA application?
That is a great question. FAFSA considers your student a dependent until age 25. So yes, if your student takes a year off and then applies for FAFSA, they're still expected to turn in or include parent information.
So they do ask those dependency questions when it comes to FAFSA. And so based on those questions, they will know, that they're still a dependent student on you, even if they took time off, anything like that.
So Dallas County Promise, Parent Promise, is an amazing opportunity. The area, Dallas County, is experiencing a boom and a lot of certificate programs, and there's just a need for certified workers. So what Dallas College has done is created a Parent Promise. You would fill out the same kind of information that your student would. You would fill out a path form. You would apply to Dallas College and then submit your financial aid application to Dallas College. Once you do that, you are also eligible to attend Dallas College tuition free for specific certificate programs or associate programs, depending on the need. So there's not a full open to anything, but there are specific programs that you could qualify for that you would be able to attend and not have to pay tuition for. I think it's a really good opportunity for any parent that is looking to kind of upscale their skills. The only requirement is you cannot have a previous degree. So if you currently have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, depending on what certificate you're going for the associate's degree, you might be able to do the Dallas County Parent Promise for that. But if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, you are not eligible for that. If you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. I'm actually the Parent Promise liaison for our district. So you can feel free to email me. My information is coming up at the end. But also, this website is amazing. You can email Parent Promise directly. Parent Promise is run only through Dallas College, so it is a little bit different than the Dallas County Promise because it's only for Dallas College and it's facilitated by Dallas College. But you can reach out directly to them at parentpromise@dallascollege.edu, or also go and check out their website, or feel free to email me with any additional information or questions.
So there was questions families wanted to see this information, so we're re-showing this. This is also available on Dallas County Promise's website directly, but this is the information on the deadlines with those income limits that Dallas County Promise has set. And then another question that came up was, do we need to apply for FAFSA every year for college, or is it a one-time during the college application? You do need to apply. We highly encourage you apply every single year. Any year that your child is going to college, you want to do that application. I know that even when I went to college 20 years ago, I filled out the FAFSA form every year that I went to school. Back then it was paper pencil, so I had to go and get a whole bunch of copies because I'd make a mistake and have to start over again. But you have to, every year that your child plans on going to college, they will fill out a FAFSA. And even if it's, after they get their degree, they can still continue and fill out the FAFSA application. So yes, every year they plan on going, they would need to.
There's a question about CPS. Students that maybe have been a part of the foster care system or CPS, there is tuition funds for them that are provided by the state. I would highly encourage you to reach out to your student CCMR dean to get additional information about that.
I'm going to move forward in the slides. I think we're on our Q&A.
Oh yeah, we are.
So real quickly, this is the email addresses. So if we kept saying, reach out to your dean, reach out to your dean, these are the email addresses for your dean. So feel free to email whichever one it is that you need to speak with. That way, if there's any questions, you need any additional information, we're always more than happy to work with you and your children. I mean, this is something that we've been passionate about. I think this is our 5th year in doing, we're in our 5th year? We're in our 5th year of doing not only these presentations, but working with our kids. And, we get to know your child very, very well. Initially, we're still in a little bit of a blur from our kids that graduated, but we know your children. We know what their plans are. We work with them and you. So whatever questions y'all have, we're always happy to answer those questions. And then please, please, please follow us on social media. On Instagram, that is our handle. Not even all the social media. Instagram, please follow us on Instagram.
Well, we do have a YouTube channel though, so a lot of the information that your students get are available on our YouTube channel. Just full disclosure, when we started this, it was during the pandemic, so we had to jump in with both feet up to our eyeballs and how to create content for online. Those beginning videos are not the greatest. We've hidden most of them, so you shouldn't see them, but just, you know, grace should be given to non-content creators who attempt to post things on YouTube. That's all I'll say about that, but it is really good information if you do want to see some of that. The YouTube channel is also CFBISD at CCMR, or sorry, CFBISD CCMR. It's the same information. Does anyone have any questions that y'all want to put in the chat? We will be happy to stay here and answer those questions for you. If you don't have any questions, you can definitely feel free to sign off. We appreciate you spending your evening with us. We know that you have a lot going on. If your student is a senior, we know you are super busy. The time is going to fly, and we just look forward to supporting you and your student as this happens. And we'll stay here to answer any questions that show up in the chat, and we'll reread the question and then kind of address that. Thank you guys very much. And again, we will send out both the presentation and the recording.
Thank you.
Man, those